Okay, so today we're going over interest formulas, simple and compound interest. And this may seem like a little tricky at first, but it's really good to know. And honestly, the best way, the shortest distance between 2 points is a direct line. And the easiest way for you to take your math test and get a good grade on it is for you to memorize these formulas. You need to just memorize these formulas for your math class. And the way you can do that is just take a blank piece of paper and everything that's going to be on your upcoming math test, write down all of the formulas. Don't make any notes on that paper. Just write down all the formulas on one piece of paper for your reference. So when you're doing practice problems, that's your go-to piece of paper. You can just check that piece of paper and make sure you got the formula down right. Okay, so let's go ahead and look into simple and compound interest rates. So the simple interest rate, the answer is going to be A. The A is going to be how much money you have total. How much money total you're going to have with these factors in it, with how much how much you put in the bank to begin with, what the interest rate is per time period. So you could say 2% every 6 months or 3% annually. That's annually means every year. Um, so it's just per time period, whatever the time period is. If the interest rate is annual, that's going to be per year. If the interest rate is biannual or semi-annual, that's going to be once every 6 months, so 2 times per year. And then T is going to be the amount of time periods that we're talking about. So if the interest rate is 3% per year, the T is going to be how many years? If the interest rate is 2% every 6 months, the T is going to be how many 6 months? So if the T is going to be a whole year, then T would equal 2 because there's 2 6 months in a year. And then compound interest is going to be the same factors over here. The P is your principal, what you originally invested in the bank account. The R is your interest rate per time period. But then we have another factor here, the N, and the number of times per period. The interest is going to be compounded. And then the T again is how many time periods. So let's look at simple interest first and do a practice problem with that. So first let's go over a simple interest problem. And instead of plugging in the numbers to this formula, first I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you exactly what's going on behind the scenes with these numbers, which is what makes this formula actually work. So simple interest is when you take, say you take $2,000 and you invest it into the bank, and say you don't put any other money in there, it's just $2,000 and you just let it ride. So you take $2,000, invest it into the bank at a simple interest of 3% annually. So that just means the bank simple interest is when the bank takes 3% of that original $2,000 and every year they add another 3% of that $2,000 onto your account. So let's see how this works out. You start out in year zero. Here's years. Year zero is when you first open up the account and you deposit $2,000 in there. And the rate is 3%, which you need to change this 3% into a decimal form, which is going to be 0.03. So the rate is going to be 0.03, and your total is going to be for year zero, when you first invested the $2,000, you're just going to have $2,000 in there because a year hasn't passed yet. But then after a year passes, in year one, you're going to make 3% or 0.03 of that $2,000, you're going to earn that in interest. So if you just take 2,000 times 0.03, that's why we change the 3% into decimal form so we can multiply it. So 2,000 times 0.03 is $60. So 0.03 interest rate of $2,000 is $60. So at the end of year one, you're going to have your original $2,000 plus another $60. So that's going to be $2,060. Now at the end of year two, since this is simple interest, they're going to take another 3% or another 0.03 of 2,000 of your original money, which is $60, and you're going to earn that. So they're going to add that to your $2,060 you have in the bank. So you have $2,060 in the bank plus another $60 of interest for the second year. So that's going to give you $2,120. Now at the end of year three, they're going to add another $60 to your account because 3% of 2,000 is $60. So we're going to take this $2,120 that you have now plus a new $60 that you've earned in interest. So that's going to give you $2,180. Now at the end of year four, they're going to add another $60 to your account. So you're going to take that new amount, that 2,180, and you're going to add another $60 to it. So that's going to give you $2,240 total. And then at the end of year five, they're going to add another $60 to your total. So that's going to be $2,240 plus another $60, which is going to be $2,300. So your total after 5 years of simple interest of 3% of your initial principal, your $2,000, is going to be $2,300. So this is going to be $2,300 is going to be what you end up with after 5 years. Okay, now let's go back and let's do this problem again, but let's use the formula this time. The A equals principal times the quantity of 1 plus R times T. So your principal, the P in this formula, is going to be how much you invest at the beginning, which is $2,000. So we're going to write A equals $2,000 times parentheses 1 plus, and then the R, the rate, is going to be the decimal form of 3%, so that's going to be 0.03 times time, T for time, and the time is going to be 5 years. So that's how long this time is going to go by. So here's 5. Okay, now when we work this problem, we have to do what's in the parentheses first, and within those parentheses, we have a plus sign and we have a multiply sign. So we need to do the multiplication first. So 0.03 times 5 is 0.15. And then we bring this 1 plus down. 1 plus 0.15. And outside of the parentheses, we still have this $2,000 we need to multiply. So within the parentheses, 1 plus 0.15 is going to be 1.15. And then outside the parentheses, we still have to multiply it times $2,000. So $2,000 times 1.15 is $2,300. Now, is that the same amount as when we did it all out by hand manually? Yes, it is. It's still $2,300. So as you can see, this simple interest is just a shortcut formula to that long way of me figuring out how much interest you're going to have after 5 years. It's going to be $2,300 if you invest $2,000 at 3% annually for simple interest. So now let's take a look at compound interest in the same, using the same word problem, but we're going to do compound interest instead of simple interest. Now the difference between simple and compound interest is simple interest, remember they just took the 3% of your original investment, your $2,000, which was $60. And every year that you left that $2,000 in the bank account, they gave you an additional 60 bucks. But compound interest is when the interest is over how much you have now in the bank, not how much you originally invested. So compound interest is going to get you a little more money, is going to make you a little more money in interest than simple interest. So compound interest is good. We like compound interest. So let's do this out manually so you can see how compound interest works. And then we'll go back and we'll plug the numbers into the formula and see why the formula is just a nice little shortcut for having to do this instead of having to do this all manually. So say year 0, you invested $2,000 in a bank account and your rate is 3%, which as we've already figured out is 0.03 in decimal form. So this is going to give us a total. At year 0, you haven't earned any interest yet, so you just have the amount of money that you just invested in the bank. You just opened up the savings account. So you have a total of $2,000. Now at the end of year 1, they're going to take that $2,000 and they're going to take that times the 3% interest rate. And $2,000 times the 3% interest rate is an additional $60. So $60 plus the $2,000 you already had in there is going to be $2,060, which is the same as what you would have had for simple interest at the end of year 1. But here's where it's different. At the end of year 2, they're not just going to take $60 and give you an additional $60 for the 3%, the 0.03 of your $2,000 you initially invested. They're going to take 0.03 of your total amount, which is larger now. It's $2,060 because you have $2,060 in the bank account this year. So we're going to take $2,060 times 0.03 this time. And that's going to give you $61.8 in interest. So you see the interest went up from 60 to $61.8. So we're going to take that $61.8 plus the $2,060 you had in that account, and that's going to give you $2,121.80. Now that's at the end of year 2. Now at the end of year 3, they're going to take that 3%, that 0.03, and multiply it times what you have already in the bank account, which is $2,121.80. So $2,121.80 times 0.03 is $63.654. So we're going to add that. That's your new interest that you're earning for year 3. So we're going to add that to the 2121.80 and get 2185.454. So now at the end of year 3, you have $2,185.454. Now at the end of year 4, they're going to take 0.03% of what you have in the bank, your total amount that you have in the bank, not just the original $2,000, but your total amount. So they're going to take 0.03 times the 2185.454, which is 65.56362. So we're going to add that to what you already had in the bank account, the 2185.454, and that gives you $2,251.01762. Now, at the end of year 5, they're going to take 0.03 of what you have in the bank now, which is 2251.01762. So 2251.01762 times 0.03 is $67.5305286. So that's your new interest earned for year 5 is $67.5. We're going to add that to what you had in the bank already. So plus 2251.01762. And that's going to give us a total of $2,318.548149. So this is going to be how much you have in the bank with compound interest over this exact same problem. You invested $2,000 at 3% annual rate. But this is compound interest. So remember, on that simple interest problem, the answer was an even $2,300. But here with compound interest, you're making an extra 18 bucks, over $18 in interest because it's compounded. Okay, so now that we've done it manually, let's actually take these numbers and plug them into the formula here for compound interest. Now we know P is going to be the principal, so that's going to be your original $2,000 that you invested. And R is going to be the rate, so that's going to be your 0.03, which is the same thing as 3%. And T is going to be how many periods of time, so that's going to be 5 years, so that's going to be 5 for T. But then what's N going to be? N is going to be 1 year because every time it's compounded annually. So N is going to be 1 year, and T is going to be how many years you leave it in the bank. So N is going to be how often it's compounded, and in compound interest, if it's annual, that's going to be every year. And then T is going to be how many years you leave it in there. How many sections of time do you leave the money in there to keep accumulating interest? So that means if A equals P times the quantity of 1 plus R over N to the power of NT, so your A is going to equal P, which is $2,000, times parentheses 1 plus R, the rate, which is 0.03, over N, which is 1 year, close parentheses, to the power of N, which is 1 year, times T, which is 5 years. So first we need to multiply this 1 times 5 up here in the quantity, or in the power number for the exponent, and that's going to give us just plain old 5, because 1 times 5 is 5. And then we need to work what's inside the parentheses here. So first we need to do this division problem, 0.03 divided by 1. So 0.03 divided by 1 is 0.03. And then we're going to bring the 1 plus down. So 1 plus 0.03 is 1.03. So that's what's in our total in our parentheses. And then we're going to take that to the power of 5. So 1.03 to the power of 5 is 1.159274074. So now we have $2,000 times 1.159274074. So let's take that and multiply them by each other. So 2000 times 1.159274074 is 2,318.548149. So you can see this is the exact same number that we got when we put this together manually, when we just did it out every year. So you can see this is just this formula is just a real easy shortcut for you to be able to figure compound interest without having to do it all manually.